Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting for April 22nd, 2024. For viewers watching at home, some members of the public may be participating via video conference or teleconference. Please stand now and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Ferris?
Here.
Commissioner Tyler Kettlehut?
Here.
Commissioner Link?
Present.
Commissioner McMahon?
Here.
Chair Lanson?
Present. Item 4, written comments, announcements, supplemental packets. Tonight we have with us Deputy Community Development Director Fabiola Smeliker. Are there any written comments, announcements, or continuances?
At this time, there have been some supplemental packets for item 7A, and those have been distributed to the commissioners and posted on the city's website.
Great, thanks. Item 5 is public comment. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comments?
I don't believe so. Let me check with Zoom. No public comments.
Great. We'll go on to item 6, which is the consent calendar. We have the minutes from the February 26th, March 11, and March 25th Planning Commission meetings. And I understand there's been a change on one of those?
Yeah, I have a minor change to the March 11th, page 3. There's a phrase, Chief Assistant City Attorney noted, and that should be removed.
Understood. With that in mind, Commissioners, any comments, or do I have a motion?
Are we approving these individually or as a whole?
It's a really good question. It was here collectively. Do you have a problem if we do individually? Is that,
You can do it collectively.
we can do it collectively unless you have a comment that you want to make a change?
I think probably I have the same comment as Vice Chair Link, which is I was absent on the 26th. He was absent on March 25th, so
We
we
will
would
be doing those
properly
separately.
abstain from
Individually.
those.
Why don't we do them individually, and then we'll have you abstain as
All
appropriate.
right, so I need a motion with regard to the very first set of minutes for February 26th.
Move to approve February 26th,
you.
provided I was here. I think I was here.
Madam Secretary, please prepare us for a vote.
Commissioner Ferris?
Abstain.
Commissioner Tyler Kettlehut?
Yes.
Commissioner Link?
Yes.
Commissioner McMahon?
Yes.
Chair Lanson?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0, Commissioner Ferris abstaining.
Next, let's move to the March 11th. Any comments, or do I have a motion? Commissioner Ferris,
Motion to approve minutes of March 11th.
please prepare us for a vote.
Commissioner Ferris?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyler Kettlehut?
Yes.
Commissioner Link?
Yes.
Commissioner McMahon?
Yes.
Chair Lanson?
Yes. Isn't that the one you were? Okay, yes, all right, that one's good.
Motion carries 5-0.
And then let's move on to the one for March 25th. Any comments or a motion? Commissioner McMahon?
I move that we approve the minutes of the March 25th, 2024 meeting.
Commissioner Ferris?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyler Kettlehut?
Yes.
Commissioner Link?
Abstain.
Commissioner McMahon?
Yes.
Chair Lanson?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0, Commissioner Link abstaining.
That was a fun exercise. We should do that again. Let's go on to number 8, department reports. We're going to do it a little bit order and do the department report first. Tonight we'll be taking the department report before the public hearing. We have a report on the campus master plan update. Presenting on behalf of the staff is Deputy City Manager Akbar Ali Khan.
Thank you, Chair Lanson and Commission members. My name is Akbar Ali Khan, Deputy City Manager. I'm here tonight to talk about the campus master plan, which I'm sure the Commission is fully aware of. However, I just want to give you a quick update on where the project is at and what's around the corner. And I'm going to do my best to summarize about 6 months worth of work in about 13 minutes or less, so please bear with me as I go through this. On the screen here, this is an artist sketch that we shared with the City Council back in November of, this is a sketch done back in 1987, which shows the Civic Arts Plaza on both sides of Thousand Oaks Boulevard, which is kind of right through the middle here. But what you see is a lot of activation on not just the south side of Thousand Oaks Boulevard where we are, but really on both sides with a variety of office type uses as well as retail type uses and residential to the north. However, what we eventually built in 1994, 7 years later, resembled this building that we're in today. And so there was this desire to turn this into an actual downtown, or at least pedestrianize it to some degree. And moving forward to 2011, the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan, in the text there, it says to create a viable, self-sustainable, pedestrian-safe, and friendly downtown core for our community. Some of the visuals that we saw from that document up above is what we have today. And down below, there was a desire to create these spaces that were more pedestrian in nature, that had store frontages up against the sidewalk. Clearly, that vision has not materialized quite yet. Fast forwarding 7 more years to 2018, the City Council adopted the Downtown Core Master Plan. Now, there was no real policy changes outlined in this document. It was really just about setting the stage for what could come next. And that document included all the things you would see in a successful downtown, to be that place to go, diverse shopping and entertainment, nightlife choices, gathering places that appeal to people of all ages, active pedestrian uses, and this idea that when you come here, you park your car once if you're traveling by car, and you're on foot the rest of your visit. In addition to these goals, we also wanted to solve for other goals with this campus, and we've all lived these as we're navigating around this building, which can be Byzantine at times. So first one is we wanted to solve for this giant parking garage entrance as you arrive, this giant concrete wall as you come up Dallas Drive. That's just not the first thing that you see as you arrive here at our City Hall. Second is screen these back of house operations. As you arrive through the main entrance on the second floor of City Hall, we have a lot of our back of house stuff happening right there, the trash enclosure, the electrical transformer, the loading dock that's greeting you at our front door. The third is for anyone that's coming here to do business, whether you're here for a permit or to pay your water bill, finding your way through city offices is a bit tough. We want to improve that. Better connecting the third floor of the Cavally down to the boulevard. Right now, if you're on the third floor, getting down to the boulevard is challenging. You have to know your way around to get there. Fifth, improving a better pedestrian connection to the lakes. And then, of course, making highest and best use of the west side parcel. So we took these concepts out to the community, trailheads, farmers markets, did a VR experience, got feedback on a lot of these concepts, and we came up with this in February of 2020 and shared it with the council. Then, of course, the pandemic came in just a few weeks later and completely derailed our progress on this front. But it gave us an opportunity to step back and look at what are those lessons from the pandemic. What we learned is that the demand for commercial had waned. A housing crisis, which was already pretty intense, had intensified. And then the context of our downtown was starting to evolve. Then we had 1710 get constructed. We had the Caruso project get entitled. So what was changing around us was our context to the east and west of City Hall. So we went back and revised this 2020 concept with AECOM, and we hired RRM to come in and do a revision. But there were things about this that we really liked. For example, these uses on the west side parcel, the road configuration, which included a new secondary access along Oakwood Drive back here, and mainly the idea of a main street right up against the building to create that pedestrian-oriented street without having to radically change Thousand Oaks Boulevard. And then lastly, what I mentioned before is creating a pedestrian connection from the third floor of the Cavally down to Thousand Oaks Boulevard. So RRM came up with this design, and this is what we shared with the council in November of 2023. And it had a lot of those same features that you saw in the AECOM design, but updated and also being informed by those lessons we learned in the pandemic. So there also were several gathering places that were programmed throughout this site plan. So the blue circles represent our 2 theaters, of course. The purple circle shows where a new city council chambers could be, and the orange circles represent areas of community gathering, which was one of the main goals of the Downtown Core Master Plan. This is that same site plan, just with some labels placed on top of them, and we'll go into a little bit of detail about where these are. But I just first want to highlight that we're very much in the concept stage of this project. As we go into design, which will not be until later this year if council decides to proceed with the project, that's when we'd move into the right half of the screen with design. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to flip through these very fast, and these were all shown to the council in November of 2023, as you can see in the top right-hand corner. But these were the current condition and then we'll flip to what the potential condition could be. And so this is our arrival to the Kavli Theater. One of the things we try to solve for is, of course, getting people from their car into city services quickly. And here you can do that by the parking garage into a back entrance of a new city services lobby that could look like this. Here is the lower parking lot of the current City Hall configuration. You can see the fly towers off to the left. And if that were graded down and with the new Main Street in front of it, it could look something like this with an actual arrival to the Sheriff Forum. This is our grand staircase, which isn't a traversable staircase, of course. It's a terrace staircase. I am told that it was a cost-cutting measure as to why it's not a staircase, but it could actually be a staircase to connect Main Street to the upper floors of the City Hall, or the Kavli. Here's our bottom of the pedestrian ramp that connects to the lakes, and this could be a suitable place for an outdoor amphitheater, something that our arts advocates pushed for in the initial concept. Here's what used to be the front lawn of City Hall, but that could be a nice place for a public market concept. And something like this you might see in downtown San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara. When I deliver this presentation to community groups, this is actually the thing that generates the most interest. And I think it has a tremendous amount of viability for a lot of our local businesses here. The idea would be to really highlight a lot of those local businesses that are kind of tucked away in those light industrial areas and those corners of town that we could bring under one roof with a really nice low overhead and low barrier to entry and put them in a place where they can be showcased. The canopies there are shown intentionally because we want this to be the home for things like the Rotary Street Fair, farmers markets on a weekly basis, that sort of thing. And we want to design this so it can accommodate all those events. This is a look down Main Street. If you're standing to the west of City Hall on the western boundary of the west side property, looking towards the east, towards the lakes, and you can see the fly towers there of City Hall in the distance. But what this starts to resemble is a true downtown experience with narrower streets, pedestrian-friendly, bike-friendly, with ground floor commercial and mixed-use uses up above. This is kind of an aerial of that same program. And so we came to City Council with all these visuals back in November, and we said, hey, we think this site plan works, but we don't know for sure. It fits visually, but we don't know what's underneath the ground. We don't know if there's blue rock in critical areas. We don't know economically, can these uses all stand on their own 2 feet? So we asked the City Council for resources to go ahead and investigate these 4 areas of further research. And what we found was this plan really works. And I'm going to go through and just highlight really quickly what some of those things are. This is a map of all of our oak trees and other trees on the property today. And just some major takeaways that I wanted to share. First one is, and I'm really going to just highlight the second one, there are 51 mature oaks on this property. And when I talk about mature oaks, I'm talking about the ones that we know, treasure, and love, and protect. As part of this program, 47, or 92% of them, would be preserved with everything that I just showed you. Our landscape designers have done an incredible job of preserving in designing this program around all the oak trees that we have on the site. So I'm really proud that we've gone through painstaking measures to share what we have in front of you today, which is a program that really goes out of its way to make sure our oak trees are preserved as part of it. The blue rock that I mentioned a second ago, I'm not a geologist, but really red means bad on this slide. And what you're looking at is essentially if you're at the Lakes Drive and you're looking west towards 1710, for example, that parking structure that we all park in is over here. The reason it sits up high, the reason why you drive uphill on Dallas Drive is because that parking structure can't actually go any lower or else it would hit that red zone, which is kind of your do not pass go. You're going to hit that really dense volcanic blue rock. The good news is this project has managed to dodge blue rock in all of the critical areas, whether it be by good luck or good planning, but we were very fortunate to find that out as well. Structurally, things like the grand staircase design, we've figured out how to do that. This building was built in mainly the calendar year of 2020 or 1994. And it was built to the prior seismic code before the Northridge earthquake really changed our seismic codes. So we made sure that we didn't want to get into a protracted engineering effort as part of any edits to the building. We found out that we can do some modest edits to the building without triggering those. So that was good news as well. When you look at our downtown, it's really, we cannot create a long-term viable downtown with just the Civic Arts Plaza itself. It's 20 acres. Most viable, successful downtowns encompass something significantly greater. Likely for a city our size, it's probably about 100 acres, which encompasses everything you see that's colored on the map. So this is really going to be a policy decision or a policy question for the City Council and the Planning Commission down the road, but just trying to signal that when you look at some of these comparison agencies that were studied as case studies, their downtown acreages were significantly greater. However, the Civic Arts Plaza can be the nucleus of a successful downtown. We discussed with our designers of what approaches to take architecturally. We gave them these were terms that were taken straight out of our general plan: sustainable, adaptable, accessible, and transparent. And these were kind of the seed descriptors that we gave them to go ahead and design a program around. We also went over inspiration of spaces that we feel are successful. And most of these areas are things that we'd want to try and emulate as part of this program. So I'm going to go through just a series of more updated renderings. Everything I showed you before is 6 months old. Everything I'm about to show you now has been developed in the past month or so, and they're still being refined. And they're going to continue to be refined even as we head into design later this year. So just want to share kind of where the conversation is heading. This is the public market if you're in one of the angled parking stalls in front of Thousand Oaks Boulevard. Here is the town square area on the inside, which is currently our lawn. DTTO is kind of a cute moniker, but that could evolve over time. This is a look down Main Street as you intersect it with Dallas Drive. Again, looking at that mixed-use building. Here's kind of a bird's eye view of that same program. Again, the canopies are shown there to show that we want this to be that place for the farmers market and other events like that. And here's a look down Main Street from the far east, as if your back was right up against the Lakes Drive. And you'll see the first floor of what's currently the Public Works Department has been adaptively reused into more of an activated retail center. Here's that concept of the outdoor amphitheater, just a little bit more refined with a nice pad of grass there with a little stage. So as I mentioned, we're at concept, and our hope is to go back in front of City Council on May 7th with the staff recommendation being that to give us authorization to advertise for preliminary design services. And so that would start to shift this project from the concept stage into the design stage, but by no means does that stop the community engagement. If anything, I think it intensifies it so we can really get some more community voices to inform the project. So here we are in terms of next steps. As I just said a minute ago, we'll go back in front of the City Council on May 7th. We would also have to issue a 60-day notice in compliance with the Surplus Lands Act, and then eventually award the preliminary design and environmental services agreement in the fall. And all of that effort is going to take probably over a year or 18 months, if not longer, to come back and prepare an entitlement package for this commission to consider, as well as the City Council ultimately. And so with that, I'll wrap up my presentation, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Alicant, for that presentation. It's obviously a long time. I think some of us had seen it even years before, and we're glad to see that it's finally kind of coming up. I have a few questions. I want to see if commissioners have questions. I'm seeing heads shaking no. Just real quick for me is, you said that the public is going to be involved. What specific public involvement or forums do you anticipate?
Well, any group that has me, I'll, of course, would relish the opportunity to come out and speak. And I've been to several. I had a whole list of them, which I won't bore you with. But just upcoming around the corner, we do have 2 open house opportunities. Those will be posted on social media, and I think tomorrow, in fact. That is April 30th, right here in this room, from 5:30 to 7:30. And again, virtually the following night on May 1st, starting at 6 p.m. Via Zoom. So those will be 2 upcoming. But then as we go into the actual design, hopefully later in the fall, we're probably going to be starting a whole new campaign focused on the finer details of the program, really about the, I'll say, the architectural flavor and what some of these spaces like the town square and the city hall might look like.
That's because my second question was, this seems like a want list of things that you're putting down now, but obviously it's not the final version of whatever it is that ultimately will be as part of that concept, right?
Yeah, everything that's out there now, I mean, the concept is there. I mean, inherently it's in the name, it's a concept. But of course, everything that we've done over the past 6 months has been a test of whether these things can fit physically and can they work economically. But really, every aspect of the program has been informed by past outreach and current outreach, but whether it be through the DCMP, the general plan process, and then most recently as part of specialized outreach for this project.
Okay, great. That's all I have. Any other questions, commissioners? I'm seeing no hands. I know we have one public comment from Jackson Piper. Why don't you go ahead? You have 5 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you, Planning Commissioners. My name is Jackson Piper from unincorporated Newbury Park. Just wanted to quickly voice my support for this effort. I think what's been produced in the concept so far has been really great. I'm really excited about the inclusion of housing in a small mixed-use format in part of the site plan. I think it's really exciting to have that and all the other little kind of puzzle pieces assembled together to create this sort of vibrant new little community center around the existing Civic Arts Plaza. I think that this will set a very good example for the rest of the boulevard, and I know that there's a plan to include affordable housing within some of the units as well, so that'll be great. Really, I have no criticisms at this time of what's been presented. I just am really excited about it going forward, and really look forward to seeing kind of what gets produced as the end result of this process. So thank you very much, and I really support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Piper. With that, I think at this point I need if there's comments from commissioners or a motion, which is to receive the report and then say that it doesn't violate CEQA. Anybody wants to make a motion? Commissioner Ferris?
Let's see if I can do this correctly. I move that we receive and file the report and find that this action is not a project as defined under the California Environmental Quality Act.
Thank you. Please prepare us for a vote.
Commissioner Ferris?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyler Kettlehut?
Yes.
Commissioner Link?
Yes.
Commissioner McMahon?
Yes.
Chair Lanson?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
We'll look forward to seeing that later, hopefully later on. We'll now turn back to item 7A and ask the recording secretary to open the public hearing.
Item 7A, hearing having been advertised as required by law, is hereby open to consider Agenda Item 7A, proposed mixed-use development, commercial and multifamily residential, special use permit SUP 2023-70011, development agreement DAGR 2023-70001, protected tree permit PTP 2023-70067, an environmental impact report addendum, California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA 2023-70004, to consider the addendum to the Thousand Oaks Boulevard Specific Plan Environmental Impact Report, EIR number 327, prepared in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, and recommend approval to the City Council. The above listed requests, based on the findings and subject to the recommended conditions of approval included in the resolution and ordinance. Located at 500 East Thousand Oaks Boulevard, the applicant is Cherry Tree Development, LLC.
Thank you. I'm glad to see over there presenting on behalf of the staff is Senior Planner Carlos Contreras.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Planning Commission, and members of the public. The project before you tonight is a proposed mixed-use development at 500 East Thousand Oaks Boulevard. Before staff proceeds to the project details and evaluation, staff would like to go over the recommendation to the Planning Commission regarding the project that's before you tonight. The request includes Planning Commission's consideration of the addendum that was prepared for the project, an addendum to environmental impact report for the Thousand Oaks Boulevard Specific Plan, prepared in accordance with CEQA, And also recommending that the Planning Commission approve the following applications for the construction of a mixed-use development and associated improvements such as landscaping, hardscaping, and grading. The associated applications with the project are as follows. Allow the construction of a 609,633 square foot mixed-use development consisting of 320 residential units with a 50% density bonus, providing 44 lower income affordable units, including 8,500 square feet of commercial retail and restaurant space, a linear park along Thousand Oaks Boulevard, a pocket park along Lombard Street, and a dog park at the southeast portion of the site, including plazas and other amenities. The 328 residential units would be distributed across one 4-story mixed-use building, one 5-story podium-style mixed-use building, and one 5-story podium-style mixed-use multifamily residential building. Maximum building heights for the project range from 47 feet at Building A to up to 62 feet at Building B and C. The project includes 475 total parking spaces, consisting of 16 surface-level parking spaces and 2 semi-subterranean parking structures within buildings B and Building C. The project also includes a protected tree permit to allow the removal of 17 Coast Live oak trees and 5 Valley oak trees, as well as encroachment into the protected zone of 9 oak trees. Since the project includes a density bonus, the applicant is also requesting 3 concessions and 4 waivers of some development standards to be discussed in further detail in this presentation. Give me a second. I don't know what is it. Okay, here we are. The project also includes a development agreement. The development agreement is proposed to create a binding contract that vests the applicant's rights to a specific request for this project. It sets forth the time period to construct the project and also specifies public and private benefits and responsibilities related to this proposed project. As far as the project overview, as I mentioned earlier, this project includes 2 mixed-use buildings and 1 multifamily residential building on 6.09 acres. The project includes 328 residential units. Of those, 44 would be affordable. Again, it includes 8,500 square feet of commercial area within Building B and Building A. The project also includes semi-subterranean parking and surface parking for a total of 475 spaces. Here's a vicinity map of the subject site. The property is located within a substantially developed area of the city. As demonstrated here, the subject site is located north of the 101 freeway. It is located east of North Moore Park Road and west of the 23 freeway. Regional access is provided to the project site via the 101 freeway using Thousand Oaks Boulevard and the Moore Park Road exits, and also the 23 freeway via the Thousand Oaks Boulevard and Hillcrest Drive on-ramps. Pardon me, it's frozen. Okay, here we go. Here's an aerial map of the subject site. As it's shown here, the project site is bounded by Thousand Oaks Boulevard on the northern portion of the site along the north property line, and then Lombard Street on the western property limits. There are commercial uses to the north, east, and the west of the subject site. The subject property, as I previously mentioned, is 6.09 acres. It's been vacant and been used seasonally for pumpkin sales and Christmas tree lot sales. The site is characterized by a sloping terrain that descends from the southeastern portion of the property to the northwestern portion of the property, where it's flatter on the Thousand Oaks Boulevard and Lombard Street intersection. The proposed project will preserve 3 mature oak trees that will be discussed in further detail in this presentation. This exhibit also demonstrates the floodplain that's along the northwestern portion of the property near those 2 oak trees fronting Thousand Oaks Boulevard. Here's a photograph of the current view of the subject site. Looking at it towards the southeast from Thousand Oaks Boulevard. As you can see here, you have the 2 existing oak trees along TOB. On the right-hand side is one of the valley oaks that are going to be preserved and the other Valley Oak on the left-hand side that will be preserved as part of the linear park that's fronting Thousand Oaks Boulevard. You also have the high voltage lines. They're identified in blue on the left-hand side, and you have Hodenkamp also on the left-hand side there. Here's a current view from Hodenkamp looking towards the south of the subject property. As this photograph demonstrates, you have the flatter portions of the property on the western side, with the elevated topography on the left side behind that valley oak tree there. Again, these oak trees are going to be preserved in place, and they're going to be incorporated into the linear park along Thousand Oaks Boulevard. As far as surrounding uses from the subject property, to the north, to the south, and east and west are properties that are located within the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan, and they also have land use designations that are mixed use, consistent and compatible with the proposed project here. The project site is within walking distance of convenience markets and also general retail uses and entertainment. Public transit is identified here in the blue circles. There are approximately 6 other public transit bus stops within a half mile of the subject site that provide service connections along Hillcrest Drive, Moore Park Road, Westlake Village, and the Thousand Oaks Transit Center as well. There are also there is a bicycle share lane on Thousand Oaks Boulevard identified here in the pink. And there's also an existing mixed-use development to the west, approximately 700 feet from the project site, referred to as 299 Thousand Oaks Boulevard, a mixed-use project. And the closest residential uses are demonstrated here in the green across Thousand Oaks Boulevard, approximately 400 feet to the north of the subject property. Now for a little bit of a background on the project. Back in September of 2017, the City Council did approve an economic development strategic plan. This plan is a long-term vision designed to help the city maintain its financial health and achieve future economic growth and social vitality. It is important to note that this project site has been identified as an opportunity site, one of 6 actually, which is a key property that warrants investment to benefit and improve the city of Thousand Oaks. And in January of 2021, the City Council authorized and initiated a general plan amendment allocating 235 units, Measure E units, to the site. However, since the city adopted the updated general plan in 2023, the general plan amendment is no longer necessary for this proposed project, and it's been withdrawn. So at this point, we just have the proposed special use permit along with the protected tree permit and also the development agreement. And then in November of 2022, the applicant did submit a pre-application for the project. At that point, the applicant submits their conceptual design and layout. Staff has been working with the applicant since that time to further refine the project to be in alignment with the City of Thousand Oaks development standards, including the objective design standards and also the specific Plan 20 design standards and guidelines. And then in March 16th of 2023, after the applicant received substantial feedback from city departments and staff and various city agencies, the applicant submitted their formal submittal for the applications that are before you tonight. Now, with regards to the project evaluation, we're going to dig in a little bit into the building's form and style for each individual building. Overall, for the proposed project, there are 3 buildings that are going to be proposed. As I mentioned earlier, one is a 4-story mixed-use building, referred to as Building A. And then you have one 5-story mixed-use building, which is referred to as Building B. And you also have one 5-story multifamily residential building referred to as Building C. The project includes 2 semi-subterranean parking garages, one at the multifamily residential building, Building C, and one also at Building B. The proposed project, the total square footage of the building area for the project is 609,633 square feet. Again, they're proposing 328 residential units. It includes 8,500 square feet of commercial, and we have 3 live-work units that are proposed within Building A, and the whole project will be of a modern style and design, architectural design. Now for Building A, I'm going to go into more specifics of the actual buildings themselves at this point. Building A consists of a 56,845 square foot gross building area, 15,949 square foot building footprint. They are proposing 43 multifamily residential units within Building A. Building A does include 1,500 square feet of commercial area on the eastern portion of the building. They do also propose a roof deck on Building A to provide enhancements in architectural relief. And they're also proposing facade setbacks from the 3rd level, being set back further from the front property line, and also the fourth floor being recessed. With regards to Building B, Building B is the largest building of the whole project. That building's gross building area is 283,372 square feet. The building footprint is 75,643 square feet. The Building B will provide 154 multifamily residential units. They will incorporate 7,000 square feet of commercial area, not only fronting Thousand Oaks Boulevard, but also on the western portion of the building, near Building A. This Building B also incorporates 2 roof decks, and also the building will also provide for increased step backs from the building facade, meaning that the 3rd level will be recessed from the Thousand Oaks Boulevard frontage, as well as the 4th floor, and the 5th floor element is set back from Thousand Oaks Boulevard approximately 215 feet. So really the 5th story element is really on the southern portion of Building B. As far as Building C goes, again, this building here is not a mixed-use building. It's solely for multifamily residential. So there is a little bit of a different private open space amenities involved in this design. The building's square footage, gross square footage is 269,416 square feet. They are proposing 131 multifamily residential units in this building. The building's footprint is 53,212 square feet. And again, this building also includes 3rd, 4th, and 5th level building stepbacks that I'll further describe in detail in this presentation. And this project also includes 2 courtyards above the podium as demonstrated here. Here's some architectural renderings of the proposed project. This is looking towards the southeast from Thousand Oaks Boulevard. As I mentioned earlier, they are going to propose a linear park along that floodplain area. We have the 2 mature oak trees that are going to be preserved in place. That linear park is approximately 21,000 square feet in area. As you can see here, you have the live-work units that are at Building A with the residential apartments above. It should be noted that Building A only proposes 3 live-work units immediately adjacent to the proposed commercial component of the project. On Building B, on the far left, that's, again, the largest building of the proposed project, and that incorporates a commercial plaza at the fronting, actually, Thousand Oaks Boulevard, and also with the lobby and commercial component fronting that internal access road along the western elevation of the building. Here's another architectural rendering to get a better sense of what the proposed project will appear like. This perspective is looking at Building B from Thousand Oaks Boulevard towards the south. You have that commercial component at the ground level with the elevated terraces and the plaza to activate the boulevard frontage. You do have the residential apartments above that 1st floor ground level commercial component, and you also have some amenity roof decks that are overlooking Thousand Oaks Boulevard as shown here. Here's another rendering of the project looking south as you enter the site off of Thousand Oaks Boulevard. You have Building B on the left-hand side. Again, you demonstrating the residential units, the ground floor commercial component to activate the boulevard and give that the mixed-use design and village concept into this project. You do have a lobby there at Building B, and then you have the commercial component behind that. And then towards the south, you have Building C. Again, that's a 5-story building, and then you have Building A on the right-hand side, 4 stories with the commercial component right there in the corner with the ground floor commercial. And this rendering here gives you a perspective off of Lombard Street, entering the site through that internal Living Street access road. Here you have Building C on the right-hand side. Again, there's a lobby there provided at Building C. There is no commercial component for Building C, as I mentioned earlier. Towards the back, you have Building B. As you can see there, you have the entrance to the parking garage and the courtyard above it. Again, that design technique is incorporated to break up the massing of Building B to make it appear as two buildings opposed to one. And on the left-hand side, you have the Building A, and you can see there you have some units at the ground level that provide direct access to that internal access road, or that internal street, rather. And here's a perspective from the freeway looking to the north, right? This proposed design takes into consideration this concept, demonstrates the existing mature landscaping along the 101 freeway within the Caltrans right-of-way. On the left-hand side, you have Building C, and on the right-hand side, you have Building B. Building B is set back approximately 125 feet from the freeway, and Building C is set back 100 feet approximately from the freeway. This gives you, again, the concept design, which incorporates the 101 freeway design guidelines as required for the project. So as far as setbacks, height, and building massing, the proposed project complies with the required 10-foot minimum side yard and rear yard setbacks. Building B does provide a 15-foot building setback as shown here, 15 foot from the curb of Thousand Oaks Boulevard. And then Building A provides that 100-foot building setback due to that floodplain with that linear park being purposed in that area. And then you have the proposed requested waiver of that setback requirement of 15 feet along Thousand Oaks Boulevard, because the proposed Building A cannot be shifted to the north, fronting Thousand Oaks Boulevard like Building B due to that floodplain. Also, the proposed building heights are as measured from the top of the building down to the lowest adjacent finished grade. Include a design that provides Building A with a 47-foot building height, Building B with 57.55 building height, and Building C at 62 feet in building height. The massing of the third-story element setback that's provided here is 20 feet. You have a fourth-story element setback of 32 feet, and the fifth-story element setback of 215 feet from Thousand Oaks Boulevard. As I mentioned earlier, the project was required to comply with the 101 freeway design guidelines. This is required to meet many design techniques and considerations that include landscaping along the southwest and southeast project perimeters where the parks are proposed, provide protective screening of roof-mounted mechanical equipment, proposed balconies, courtyards, roofline variation, and the increased Building B rear yard setback between the rear property line and the freeway. This is all implemented to reduce visual impact from the 101 freeway. It should also be noted that there is a berm along that southern portion of the property between the site and the freeway, which contains mature trees and mature landscaping, further screening the proposed buildings as designed. And again, this rendering here is just used, this exhibit rather, is used to demonstrate in here, I can just mention it really quickly. In the purple, it's that 10-foot third floor setback required through SB 20. And then you have the fourth floor setback along Thousand Oaks Boulevard of 30 feet. And then actually on Building B, that fifth floor element, as I mentioned earlier, is approximately 215 feet from the first floor building facade of that building. And then as you can see here, Building C, the fourth floor provides approximately a 30-foot building step back. Again, these are all design techniques to further reduce the massing and the scale of the proposed building as it's seen from not only the public right-of-way, but also from the internal access roads for the project. As far as the proposed unit mix for the project, here's a breakdown of what they're proposing. This includes 12 studio units. Of those 12, 2 will be affordable units in the lower income category. They're proposing 156 one-bedroom units. Of those, 21 will be lower income affordable units. And they're proposing also 2-bedroom units, which include those 3 live-work units, which are 160. Of those, 21 will be lower income units as well. Since the proposed project will designate 24% of the total units within the affordable category for the 2 proposed mixed-use buildings, they're going to get 44 affordable units. By providing the 44 affordable units in the lower income category, the applicant is entitled to a 50% density bonus, which is a maximum of 92 density bonus units for this project. The total unit count of 328 is derived from the 183 base units plus the 92 density bonus units that they can get because of the affordable component, which translates to 275 total units. But they also get 53 units for the SP20, which the SP20 allows above commercial. So that is where essentially breaking up the two. You get the base density of 183, and you get the 92 density bonus units, which is 275, plus the 53 that are above the commercial component, which gives you 328 total. In terms of the regional housing needs and benefits, the project will add needed housing to both market rate and affordable units for the city. And the applicant will also obtain additional market rate units, including concessions and waivers as requested, and they will also get some residential parking reductions. Here's another breakdown, just again to explain the total number of units that are proposed. The total overall unit count is 328. And again, that's a result of the 183 units that come from the multiplying the 6.09 acres by 30 units to the acre, right? And then you get the 50% density bonus, which is the 92 units, and then you get the 53 units above the commercial that are allowed by the SB20. As far as the density bonus, the applicant is requesting 3 concessions of development standards, a mix of standards that come from specific Plan 20 and also the objective design standards. The 3 concessions that they're requesting is one relating to building height to allow the number of stories to increase from 3 stories to 5 stories, to allow a reduction in the window details that include reducing the depth of the windows from 3 inches to 2 inches from the glass to the wall edge, and also allowing them to incorporate vinyl windows. The third concession is reducing Building A's retail frontage from 50% to 18%. And then the 4 waivers that are proposed for this project due to the density bonus request is building setback development standard modification, which is pertaining to the increased front yard setback for mixed-use Building A. As I mentioned earlier, that building cannot be sited 15 feet from the curb of Thousand Oaks Boulevard due to that floodplain, so they're requesting an approximate 98.5 setback from Thousand Oaks Boulevard. They're also proposing a modification or a waiver to the building design by increasing the maximum allowable interior corridors from 100 feet to 150 feet, and also modifying or requesting a waiver from the courtyard requirements because the courtyard in Podium Building C is located on the 3rd level opposed to being located on the 2nd level as required by the objective design standards. The 4th waiver they're requesting is a reduction to the ground floor residential units having direct access to the internal access road. Right now, Building C provides 19 units that are ground level. 5 of those cannot provide direct access to the internal access road because for a couple of reasons. One is because there are units at the rear portion of the property that are near that berm, right? And the internal access road does not wrap around Building C. And also, the applicant has proposed some units that are on the eastern portion of Building C to have direct access to that pedestrian-friendly access road that leads to the dog park. And then the applicant also has proposed some ground-level units that are providing direct access to the Lombard Street Park. So although they're not providing direct access to the internal access road, they are still providing direct access to some of the amenities on site, and also there are some site constraints due to topography, as I mentioned earlier, because of that berm at the rear of the property. So. And then the applicant is also requesting 3 modifications from the requirements of the objective design standards. One of them is relating to building mass and articulation. The maximum building length for Building B is 200 feet in length. That building is 369 feet in length. However, as the applicant has designed the project, as I mentioned earlier, with the courtyard at the midpoint of Building B to reduce the massing and the scale of that building. And by incorporating that courtyard, they are proposing making it appear as 2 buildings opposed to 1. The applicant is also requesting a modification from the objective design standards to allow a reduction in the building massing breaks, extending the full height of the building. And they're also requesting to decrease the total landscape green area of the common usable open space for the project. Staff supports these concessions, waivers, and modifications because the design and layout of the project consider the existing floodplain at the northwest portion of the site, elevated topography at the southeastern portion of the site, and existing and future surrounding development. The buildings have been sited and designed with architectural components that are compatible with existing conditions and surrounding property characteristics. Although the length of Building B is greater than the maximum allowable, again, the applicant has incorporated a design for a courtyard that splits the building into 2 without losing the affordable units or reducing the amount of affordable units for the project. Furthermore, the site constraints that include that floodplain limit development potential within that area, and as such, resulting in a design hardship due to the existing site's characteristics. Additionally, the construction within the floodplain would be a financial hardship for the applicant, and also the natural setting of the site would change because the floodplain does support 2 mature oak trees. As far as the modifications regarding building articulation and design, staff supports that because the proposed buildings are designed to incorporate vertical and horizontal elements, building articulation, roofline variation, decorative finishes and materials and colors for the buildings. The architectural design of all the structures differentiate between the first floor and upper floors by providing increased setbacks or step backs for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th levels. And also other design features that are proposed for the project include massing breaks at the building's midpoint, as I mentioned earlier, the 3rd-story element setback of 20 feet, a 4th-story element setback of 32 feet, and a 5th-story element setback of 250 feet for Building B, and also just varied facade elements such as balconies, trellises, and rooftop terraces to help, again, reduce aesthetic impacts from the proposed buildings. And finally, the reduction to the required landscape green area is supported because the project includes an expansive public open space along the frontage, which is that linear park, totaling 21,000 square feet approximately. And they're also proposing a pocket park at Lombard Street and also a dog park on the subject property, which is complementary to the proposed mixed-use development. Here is an exhibit demonstrating the commercial components of buildings, mixed-use buildings A and B. On the left-hand side, you have the 3 live-work units that are immediately adjacent to the 1,500 square feet of commercial. And then on the right-hand side, you have Building B with the 7,500 square feet of commercial. As I mentioned earlier, you do have the live-work units that provide for a transition from the public open space with that linear park that lead to the live-work units that then go to the retail component of Building A that then lead to the mixed-use development beyond. As this site demonstrates, the commercial component would provide for parking immediately to the east of the commercial component of Building A and also to the south of Building A within that internal access road. Parking for the commercial component will also be provided within Building B's parking garage. As far as undergrounding of utilities on the subject site, I did mention earlier that the site does support 66 kV high voltage overhead power lines. The site also supports overhead electricity, telephone, and cable and utility lines. As shown here, the overhead power lines extend north of the subject site across Thousand Oaks Boulevard and along the eastern side of Houghton Camp Road. The applicant has agreed to underground all electrical systems within the property, including the high voltage overhead power lines. The conditions of approval and development agreement require all existing on-site and adjacent utility lines to be placed underground and the poles shall be removed. Furthermore, the applicant agreed to enter into an agreement with the city to assist the city with the undergrounding of Southern California Edison Systems located along Hodecamp Drive, Thousand Oaks Boulevard to Hillcrest Drive, which is demonstrated here in the orange. This system includes overhead power lines, communication lines, and all associated structures. The development agreement sets forth 2 possible off-site undergrounding plans and a reimbursement agreement that will be required between the city and the applicant to address responsibilities to obtain permits and manage design and construction, and also cost sharing. The parties will also need to work collaboratively with Southern California Edison for the undergrounding portion of the project. As far as site access, this exhibit here demonstrates proposed access to the property. One point of access will be provided off of Thousand Oaks Boulevard, demonstrated here in the green. There will be a left turn lane striping that will be required as a result of this project from Thousand Oaks Boulevard going westbound, entering the site. There also will be access provided to the subject property from Hodecamp towards the south on one of the 2 left turn lanes along Hodecamp towards the subject site. And there will also be improvements required for left turn at Thousand Oaks Boulevard and Lombard Street. As far as ingress and egress go for the 2 internal access roads, vehicles will be able to make a right turn in off of Thousand Oaks Boulevard into that entrance there on the north property line, and vehicles exiting the property would only be allowed right turn out. Along Lombard Street, vehicles will be able to make a left turn into the site, and vehicles will also be allowed to make a left turn out and also a right turn out off of Lombard Street, as proposed. This exhibit here demonstrates just, continuing with the access. This is more regarding internal access. There will be, as I mentioned earlier, there will be a pedestrian-oriented road that's between building B and C. Only pedestrians and Ventura County Fire Department access will be allowed in this path of travel. And the project also includes 2 bike rooms. One bike room would be located in building B near that commercial component, and then another bike room would be located at building C at the northeastern portion of that building, near building A. As far as parking, the proposed project will include 475 total parking spaces. As I mentioned earlier, because of state density bonus law, there is a reduction to the parking ratio for the residential component of the project. They are going to be proposing for the 1-bedroom units, a parking ratio is 1 space per unit. They're going to provide the 168 as required. The 2-bedroom units are at a ratio of 1.5 spaces per unit. They are going to provide 240 for the project. And then you have the guest parking, is their surplus parking that they're going to provide, 19 total spaces, rendering 427 total parking spaces for the residential component. As far as the commercial component goes, they are required to comply with the SP20 Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan requirements for retail. So this project is parked at a ratio of 1 space for every 300 square feet for the 5,300 square feet of retail space, which requires 18 spaces. The first 2,000 square feet are able to be parked at 1 space for every 200 square feet, which gives you 10 spaces. And then anything beyond 2,000 square feet is at a ratio of 1 space to 100. And so because they're proposing 1,200 square feet above that, they're required to provide 12 parking spaces for a total of 40 commercial parking spaces. Staff would also like to note that the SP20 does allow for off-street parking for the project, but the applicant has provided the minimum required on-site parking for this proposed project. Just to continue with parking, this shows you the proposed parking garage entrance at Building B. In the red square is that second level courtyard, included in the project, again, to break up the building's massing along the western building facade. On the left-hand side is that northern Building B that's fronting Thousand Oaks Boulevard. On the southern side, you have the southern portion of Building B which is a total of 5 stories there. And then you have the parking garage entrance. This is looking at the project site from the internal access road towards the south. This is the multifamily residential building, Building C. And as I mentioned earlier, this project, proposed Building C here, demonstrates the four levels, right, of the project, and with the 5th level faded because it's recessed, as I mentioned earlier, approximately 30-foot building step back. As far as the conceptual landscape plan and for the project, again, the project includes various components for open space programs. The project includes swimming pools, barbecue areas, 4 rooftop decks, a children's play area at the Lombard Street Park, indoor amenities that include co-working space, gym, lounge, to name a few. Also bike storage, as I mentioned earlier, dog park and walking areas and large mature trees that are within that linear park. The public open space does total 54,763 square feet, which is approximately 20% of the total site area for the proposed project. This open space area of 54,000 square feet complements this proposed mixed-use development. The open spaces are connected by a system of pathways and paseos to provide residents and visitors with multiple opportunities to gather. 2 4-floor roof decks are provided. One is at Building A, and you also have a couple at Building B, which includes seating and also planter areas. This here is a close-up of the 3 open space programs that are proposed with this project. You have that 21,000 square foot linear park in red. You have that dog park, which is approximately 14,000 square feet at the southwest portion, the southeast portion of the site. And then in the orange, and then in the blue, you have that Lombard Street Park proposed for this project. The staff wants to note that the applicant has agreed with Conejo Recreation and Park District to donate the linear and Lombard Park to help provide parkland to serve residents of this new development. The park improvements would be passive and provide neighborhood park level of service, which features things as, seating and gathering areas, walkways, and also the preservation of those 2 mature oak trees along Thousand Oaks Boulevard. It also includes a small playground, open turf areas with landscaping. The developer will be responsible for developing and maintaining these parks. In return, for that donation of the parkland, a CRPD will reduce the Quimby fees by 50% for the applicant. And it's all captured in the conditions of approval. Here's a close-up rendering, or exhibit rather, of the courtyards that are proposed at buildings B and also C. On the left-hand side, you have Building B, those 2 courtyards that are proposed. One of them will be proposed at the 2nd level above the garage entrance, as I mentioned earlier, and also a courtyard will be provided at level 3. On the right-hand side, it's demonstrating the 2 proposed courtyards for Building C. As I mentioned before, those 2 courtyards will be sited on the 3rd level of the building, which is why they're requesting the modification of the objective design standards. As far as the protected tree permit, the project includes impacts to some of these on-site oak trees. The project includes the removal of 22 oak trees and encroachment into 9 oak trees. The 34 protected oak trees consist of 24 coast live oaks, 8 valley oaks, and 2 holly oak trees per the oak tree report that's been submitted that was dated January 2024. 3 oaks will be protected in place. They consist of 1 coast live oak, 1 valley oak, and 1 holly oak. These trees that are going to be protected in place are identified here in the green dots. 2 are within the Caltrans right-of-way. 1 is immediately adjacent to the western property line of the property near that Lombard Street Park. The removal of these oak trees is necessary to accommodate the proposed improvements and grading activities associated with the proposed development of this mixed-use project. The encroachment of the 9 oak trees is necessary to maintain proper clearance, proposed sidewalks, outdoor patios, driveways, and open space for the project. Because they're removing 22 oak trees, 64 oak trees are required to be replaced. but due to site constraints for spacing and also for compliance with Ventura County Fire Department defensibility requirements, the applicant can only place 6 trees on site. So the applicant is going to propose 6 trees on site and then also pay an in lieu fee for the remaining 58 trees that are required. So here in the green circles, we identify the proposed location of the 6 replacement oak trees. 2 will be located within that dog park at the southeast portion of the property behind Building B. 2 will be placed immediately west of the Building C, which is where the Lombard Street Park is located, where they have that children's play area. And then you have the 2 oak trees that are proposed within that linear park. Right there, the 2 green dashed lines are representing the 2 existing mature oak trees that are going to be also preserved in place, but they are going to be encroached on because of the improvements that are going to happen through the hardscaping of the project and also potential encroachment because of the grading for Building A. So the applicant will either need to submit a new replacement plan if they decide to provide more additional trees on site, if that's possible. If not, again, they will have to plant trees off-site for public benefit, or they would have to provide the in lieu fee of $102,614.77 for the 58 oak trees that got to be replaced. This payment goes to the city's open space conservation fund and is used towards the acquisition of open space should they decide to move forward with the in lieu fee, which is stipulated in the conditions of approval for the project. As far as the development agreement, there are a few benefits, several benefits that come along with the proposed project. Those include undergrounding of the 66 kV utility lines within the property. The number of units that are being proposed, the 44 affordable units that are being proposed at a lower income category would count towards the city's regional housing needs assessment for the 6th cycle. The project also includes 1,000 square feet of private co-working space as a private amenity. And there's also a linear park that's going to be a benefit for the project here. As far as CEQA, there was an addendum prepared for the project in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, which had a comprehensive evaluation of the potential environmental impacts for this project. The evaluation determined that the project could not have any additional significant impacts as long as the appropriate mitigation measures are applied from the original EIR for the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan. The staff is asking that the Planning Commission review and recommend to the City Council that they consider the addendum that was prepared for the project in accordance with CEQA, and also determine that the project will not substantially increase the severity of previously disclosed impacts already identified in that EIR number 327 for the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan. So as far as the recommendation, staff has recommended that City Council consider the addendum to the EIR prepared for the project dated April 2024 that was prepared in accordance with requirements of CEQA and determine that with the inclusion of the recommended mitigation measures within EIR number 327, the project will not result in any new significant impacts nor substantially increase the severity of previously disclosed impacts beyond those already identified in EIR number 327 for the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan. Staff has also recommended that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to approve the special use permit 2023-70011 and protected tree permit 2023-70067, and also that the Planning Commission adopt an ordinance approving the development agreement 2023-7001. Staff would like to note that we provided a supplemental memo. That memo was included a few things. One was to address questions and concerns from Commissioner Ferris regarding site density and density bonus law. Also addressing concerns regarding the commercial component of Building A, regarding the entrance along the eastern elevation of that building and not providing an entrance on the northern portion of that building for the commercial component. and also a modification to the conditions of approval, specifically condition number 221, I believe, regarding the affordable housing covenant. Staff incorporated conditions in there that included the word should instead of shall, and staff went ahead and made that modification as part of our updated template. Another item that was discussed in that memorandum provided to you today was additional letters of support that were provided to staff in support of the project for the applicant team. And also, staff made revisions to the traffic section of the staff report regarding the level of service. However, those modifications or minor revisions to the level of service discussion in the staff report do not change the conclusions of the project. They were just modified to provide updates to level of service discussion. That concludes staff's presentation. Staff is available for any questions and concerns, and we also have planning manager here, Steve Kearns, available, and also Mark Bueno with Traffic Division.
I want to thank you, Mr. Contreras, and all the staff, and obviously we'll get to the applicant. That was a very involved process that took, I'm assuming, a lot of time. So I appreciate you going through all that in a relatively short period of time. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Link.
Thank you, Mr. Contreras, for the comprehensive report. I actually just have one question. So I think I finally understand the access scheme for the project, but I'm a little confused at the configuration of the driveway. So the driveway on Thousand Oaks Boulevard is full access with the exception of left turns out. But the Lombard Street driveway has a median island in it that looks to make left turns in kind of difficult. So is that the intended configuration of how it's supposed to work, or should the island have been on the Thousand Oaks Boulevard driveway?
Staff will defer this question to Mark Bueno with Traffic.
Thank you, Vice Chair Link. That is correct. For Thousand Oaks Boulevard, the access is full access inbound, and for outbound access, it would be right turn out only. So vehicles would not be able to turn left into Thousand Oaks Boulevard or go northbound toward Hodenkamp Road. They'd have to make that right turn out. And as far as the Lombard Street driveway, it is full inbound and outbound access. So with that median, there would be southbound left turns from Lombard allowed to turn left into that site.
So is it the intent to maintain the configuration as it's shown? Because it looks like it would be more difficult to make a left turn into the Lombard Street driveway based on that configuration. And there would be nothing restricting left turns out from the Lombard driveway other than perhaps signage, which you and I both know that doesn't do anything.
Understood. And currently that is the design. As part of the project conditions, a traffic signal and a signing and striping plan are required as part of the project. So any modifications to off-street improvements to the intersection, we can also capture at that time and be thoroughly improved. Also defer the question regarding the median to the applicant team. Possibly the civil engineer could provide more input on that as well. But again, as part of the plan check process, if and when this project is approved, we can capture any modifications as needed.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Keohane?
And I want to thank you, too, for that very comprehensive and really detailed presentation. It helped a lot. It really honed in the packet for us, because it was a big packet to read, really big packet to read. So you mentioned one of the benefits to the city is undergrounding the lines. If you know, and it might be a question for the applicant, how much approximately will that cost them to do that?
We'll defer that to the applicant team, but it is in the millions. It's not a insignificant number.
Is that it? Okay. Commissioner Ferris?
Thank you. Thank you very much again for the, I will give you all the lauds that you deserve on the comprehensive nature of the project and the overview of it, so thank you. And also thank you for the revisions on tightening up the language on the affordable units conditions. And my question about the circulation for that Building A commercial part, it just looks like there's been changes in the plans from the original circulation into that part, so that's great. You also, I just want to reiterate it on the protected tree permit. the current replacement plan only addresses some of the trees that they are required to. We have conditions in there that they need to come up with an additional replacement plan or plant off-site or pay a fee. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. As proposed right now, their replacement plan only includes those 6 oak trees that I mentioned earlier. As I said, because there are 22 removals, 64 have to be replaced. And the remaining 58, they can either figure out to plant them off-site, or they can figure out to plant them on-site, which they haven't been able to because of the constraints, or pay that $102,000 in lieu fee. And it's all captured in the conditions of approval. They have those options.
Yeah, admittedly, there's a lot going on this site, so I can see where they might have to do something off-site. Let me ask just a couple questions, and maybe either staff or maybe Mr. Hare can actually help me out on this. There's concessions, there's waivers, there's modifications. Can you give me a sense of the legal landscape of what we're being asked to?
Sure. So this is an affordable project, so under the state density bonus law, they have a right to a certain amount of incentives or concessions. Those are what I would call as automatic, right? So in this case, based upon the amount of affordable they're providing, they receive 3 concessions. So those are ones that under state law, especially in the last 6 or 7 years, has been interpreted very strongly to ensure that those incentives are permitted unless the city or county, whatever agency is reviewing it, makes certain findings, right? And those findings would be like, for example, it would be health and safety, severe health and safety concerns would merit that you could fight it back, right? You could say no to that for those reasons. There's also a financial component that I don't think would be applicable in this case. So those are the 3. So then you also have waivers. And waivers are, again, under the state density bonus. They are requests that due to various constraints or the needs of the project, the way it's been designed, they need to waive specific objective design standards. So now that we've adopted our objective standards, those are the ones that we present to them, and they say, based upon how we're designing this project and the needs that we have for again, it's an affordable project. It's very important to note that they're requesting the waivers. I will state, just so we discuss it in more detail if you wish, that we have obviously a development agreement in this case, and every development agreement is unique based on a number of factors. In this case, as you heard from Mr. Contreras, we have constraints with the land, right? We have a floodplain, we have the topography, and we have the 66 kV lines. You mentioned the question, you had a question regarding the cost of that, right? And again, it's important to note that in this development agreement, we are requiring them as part of the agreement that they actually underground the 66 kV lines, which they are required to do in a regular project, right? This is something that we've negotiated as part of this project. But to that sense, you go back to the modifications. So they requested all the waivers as modifications. They requested 3 incentives and then 7 waivers. When we started to talk about the development agreement, we made 3 of those. We felt that we could make 3 of those modifications, and it's based upon differences of opinion between waivers and modifications, but we felt that strongly that we could support the modifications in this case and the waivers. So the waivers are something that's permitted by state law under the state density bonus. The modifications, we see those in many cases. It doesn't necessarily have to be an affordable case. We saw some of those where we have a situation where we have a very specific, unique case, and they say, I can't meet that one objective standard or one objective design standard. So we look at it and we say, yes, we're going to request or ask that design standard is modified, right? So in this case, we have this agreement at this end that we're presenting to you, in which we outlined it as the 3 incentives, again, height, is obviously the windows and the setback, and then we have 4 waivers. Again, their request is those waivers are required by the state density bonus law, and then we have the 3 modifications, which again is what we requested as part of this negotiation, that we would refer to those as modifications because we think those are more supportive as modifications versus waivers.
Okay, and I think, just to reiterate, I think that I did notice that language in the development agreement, which there were specific, the ones identified as concessions and waivers are as per the state's density bonus law. The other ones do not have that language.
Correct.
Consistent with how you've described it here. Just sort of the other 3 are sort of based on negotiations. This is what city staff supports for this project before us. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. And I will, again, want to emphasize that the incentives are the ones in which, clearly in the state density bonus law, they have requested them, and based upon their project and the amount of affordable they are providing, they have the right to those 3 incentives.
Okay. My last question relates to the last comment I had made and was in the supplemental packet, which was asking about the baseline used for the density bonuses. While I would say that you accurately described that this is the baseline that has been used, you didn't answer the question, why is that the baseline used of the 183 versus the amount that could have been built and was allocated by the city council before any calculations were made for affordable density bonuses? Why are the 53 being tacked on at the end versus being used as part of the baseline calculations?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Ferris. That's a very good question. The baseline for density bonus to calculate how much density could be on a site is the overall acreage times the maximum density for that site. In this case, it's 30 units per acre times 6.09 acres, which nets us about 183 units. The unlimited over commercial is not a metric that's static. So we don't have a way to calculate that as a finite number. It's a moving target, if you will. So every time you move pieces on the plan or add density, and it changes the site planning and changes the overall density. And the commercial could shrink, and that number could shrink for the unlimited. So the metrics that's used is the metric, which is the 6.09 acres times 30 units per acre. So the baseline in this case is 183.
Okay, thanks for that. I guess I don't necessarily agree that that's the right thing, because ultimately the 53 units are units that under the general plan designation and the specific plan at the time that the city council allocated units were available for them to build on the site before any affordable units were there. So that's why I keep coming back to why that is not being included in the baseline, because if it were, the density, 44 units would be a lower percentage than the 24 that gives them the 50% bonus density. And if they wanted to get a 50% bonus density, they should give us more affordable units. So I feel like there's more here that needs to be done. The other background of that is that in the staff report to council January 26, 2021, when they were discussing what the potential bonuses would be, they allocated 235 units. And I understand it's not a Measure E thing anymore, but they were viewing it as the number of units that needed to be allocated so that they could build what's allowable on the site. And in page 3 of that staff report, it says the project includes 11% or 26. This is at the time, of course it changes. Project includes 11% or 26 affordable units at the very low category. Per statutory allowance of the state law entitles the project to a 35% density bonus. That 11% or 26 units is relative to that 235 unit baseline that the council considered. So I'm wondering why, when the allocations were done, when they were considering it, we're now evaluating this at a lower baseline and getting fewer affordable units, but a larger density bonus. So that's the reason why I'm asking that.
I think I'd like to also clarify, the state law has changed, and 35% was the maximum allowed before. Now you can go up to 50%.
I'm not arguing that what the maximum was or what it would be. What I'm arguing about is the baseline.
Yeah, and the baseline that's explained is 30 units per acre. And then the specific plan 20 allows you to go unlimited, so it doesn't really specify the number. So once it's designed based on the size of the unit, it will be what that density will be, and we don't know until the project is designed. So that's how they yield additional units.
But the 53 units could be built because under the specific plan designation, it allows them to have that many units as not calculated by that. So the total amount that they could have is the 30 units per acre plus the amount that they're recommending as part of their project. I do not understand why that isn't the baseline from which we start.
Well, that's because it's unlimited, and until the project is designed and how it's designed, it's, you know, it's allowed by right.
Is it allowed by right?
Under specific plan 20, yes. It says it's allowed unlimited units under the, over the commercial. It doesn't specify a density.
Right, but we're asking to evaluate density bonuses and concessions according to the state density bonus law, but we're not using them as part of the baseline for which we've just said they have by right. So that's their starting point.
I think it depends how you interpret, but when you have the layer,
Exactly.
I think that it's a legal question, and I don't know if Patrick wants to provide an answer, but when you look at the different requirements, that's the way it's typically calculated and has been calculated in other projects.
Again, what I'm trying to do is, are we getting as much public benefit as we should be getting for this project, for as many concessions, waivers, and, you know, the number of protected oak trees that need to be removed for this? And that's the reason why I'm asking that.
So let me just, I'm not sure if I'm going to end that part of the discussion, but certainly understand staff's position on this. This has been how the policy, how we've done this. We did it with 299, the same interpretation. I would say that certainly with the challenges of this site, and as we know, this is one of the last sites we have in the city that of this size, right? It has its challenges, and so not surprisingly, the applicant is using every tool in the toolbox that they have, whether it's from a state density bonus law or state rights or city policies that we have, and they're certainly taking an opportunity to use those to create a project that, again, yes, there are going to be some waivers, there are going to be some incentives that they need, but certainly they're taking, they're paying attention to all the different ones they can do to make this, to them, a viable project, right, that they can present to us. And so we totally evaluated those things and look at that and say, okay, where do we have some room to negotiate? Where do we have some room to address some of these challenges that we have on this project with the topography, et cetera? So I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that I think we've had this discussion before, and we've already made this policy, this interpretation, and so that's what we've used in this particular case.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McMahon?
I also want to thank you for the very extensive report that you did, the whole staff did. I had a couple questions about the concessions, waivers, and modifications. One of the modifications is the building length, going from the maximum 200 feet length to 369 feet. Wouldn't it have been better, instead of making that so much different, to make the building 2 buildings instead of 1?
Right, so when we were looking at this project and looking at the waivers, again, I want to emphasize that applicants would probably step up here and say that they think that they have the 3 incentives and they want all of these as waivers, right? But because of the development agreement, we have a unique opportunity here with the development agreement that we don't have in any other kind of case, or most cases. We looked at these as which ones that we felt that we could support as modifications versus a waiver. First I want to state that the applicant initially wanted these as all waivers. So that's an important part, because then we have another analysis that we have to do through the state density bonus law to negotiate. So that's one part. Two, we felt that due to the constraints of the property, again, when you look at the site, it's important to note that with the undergrounding, if you see that roadway that goes down through the middle of this project, that is where the lines are going to go. And that's important because they can't build anything on top of that. So it was important that we couldn't break it up too much, or you're shifting things to go over a roadway that has to be empty because you have to be able to get to the ground, right? So in addition to the safety factors of lowering the lines to underground and of course the beautification, SE still needs to get access to those lines at some point, right? So that, again, even though it beautifies it and we have the safety element of the fact that we don't have those lines anymore and high winds, et cetera, we also have to have the fact that there's still there's easements there, obviously, but there's also some restraints on how you use that property. So you see the dog park, you see the way that the fire lane is situated. All that is done with the design of ensuring that they have that line that goes underneath it all the way to the street as we go across the street to the other side of Thousand Oaks Boulevard. And so that's part of the reason why we looked at this and said, okay, this one we think we should be a modification for that reason, right? Again, it's part of, again, there are a lot of constraints on this property to make it work. And so we felt that was the best case for us as far as the modification.
Okay, and then one more question about the concessions. We absolutely, by state law, need to give them 3 concessions. I recognize that. My question is about the concessions. Does the one concession have to be 5 stories? Can it be 4 stories?
So they request the concessions based upon how they designed the project, so that's from them. And so they have, again, going to the constraints of this property, they designed it with again, 4 stories plus undergrounding or subterranean parking, right? And so they realized that would be a difficult one for a modification, for example. So that is obviously one that they were going to say, I need that as a concession or incentive. Concession and incentive are the same thing, of course, under the density bonus law, but that is why they have that one as well as the windows, for example, as another one.
Thank you.
I just have 2 questions. Just to kind of go over the affordable housing, it's 44 units, all from the low category, correct?
Yes, there is only 44 units in the lower income category proposed for the project.
Was that because we wanted to fill that area for RENA, or was that just what the applicant agreed to, or why was there not any kind of differential in terms of numbers?
The applicant can speak more to it, but that's what the applicant proposed to get their 50% density bonus in that specific category. Staff does not, for lack of a better phrase, recommend which level is required. Again, these 44 units will count towards that RENA count, right? The Regional Housing Needs Assessment, and it will be specifically for that lower income category, opposed to very low or moderate.
And this concept, I'm assuming, complies with the new inclusionary housing process that we've kind of been going through?
That is correct, yes. It complies with the inclusionary housing ordinance.
Okay, and my second is kind of just to pick up on what Commissioner McMahon was saying, and Mr. Heer, your kind of explanation. It sounds like this middle part of B is not necessarily a building per se. It's basically to cover it for purposes of access in the event Edison or somebody else needs to use it and to protect it. Would that be more accurate?
Well, I think I would say that the uniqueness of going back to again, every project's unique, right? And this parcel is very challenging, as I said. Just that when you look at the lines, how they did that, they are doing it with a design so they can get access to it. It could be a road, it could be something that's on top of it, but just nothing like a 1-story, 2-story, 3-story building, nothing like that, right? So you can have some temporary structures that would be on this road. But that part of it is to design it so they can, if they needed to get access, they can open up that road to get access to it.
I mean, couldn't they, again, I'm just thinking, it's not necessarily a full building. It's not really going the whole way. They could have an art project there or something else.
Absolutely, something more of a temporary lighter structure that can be easily removed or removed by the fire department, for example.
Because that was my concern. A lot of the public, I know, reached out saying, why does it have to be such a long building? But it sounds like it's really not.
Right, I mean, they're designing it based upon what they think they need to meet their numbers, right? So that's part of the equation, and then we look at it and say, okay, why are they doing it this way? Can we negotiate something a little bit different? And we went through that whole process. I will tell you that staff, spent a long time working with them on this project to try to come up with something that we would recommend to you as part of this project. If I may say one more thing, just for the record, I'm not sure if Mr. Contreras stated it earlier, and if he did, I apologize to him. But in the packet, there's also received this afternoon at about 3:45 p.m. a packet from Mitchell Size Law Firm, and that is a comment on the addendum to the CEQA EIR that was generated for the specific plan. And Meridian Consultants are a consultant for our for our environmental analysis on this project. They actually quickly reviewed it and prepared a written response that is also in the record. It's the last document in your packet, at least it was the last document in my packet that I received tonight. So just for the record that we did receive Mitchell Si's comments. He was challenging a couple of things that you've seen before with past communication from that office. And then he had one question about the addendum that was thoroughly analyzed by Meridian Consultants. I will summarize that the consultant's opinion was that these comments from Mitchell Si's office concerns are not materially affect the conclusions of the addendum to the EIR, and they're due to the involvement of there is no new significant environmental effects or a substantial increase in the severity of the previously identified significant effects, and therefore, based upon that, the addendum was an appropriate analysis for this project.
Okay, thank you. One last question I had, Mr. Contreras, is the modification, and again, we've been focusing on 1 and 2, but the number 3 in terms of the open space design, could you clarify that a little better for me? It's exactly what that refers to.
Yeah, the objective design standards require that the open space programs, such as, let's say, for example, the courtyard area, provide that that landscape green area, right, like actual turf area. But because the project is including those other 3 open space programs, right, approximately 54,000 of square feet of the Lombard Street Park and the linear park and the dog park, staff supports that the decrease of that 60% because they're meeting that in other components of the project.
Okay, all right. Any other questions, commissioners? So with that, let's go to the person or the party that keeps getting referred to as the applicant. I believe Tom Cohen will be speaking on behalf of the applicant. You have 15 minutes for you and your team.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Lance and Commissioners. I'm Tom Cohen, resident here at Thousand Oaks. I'm here on behalf of Cherry Tree Capital Partners, the applicant. And first, I always start by thanking city staff, Carlos in particular, for their efforts and guidance in delivering the project to you this evening. It's a long staff report. I want to introduce the Cherry Tree team here this evening, Chris Marsh and Tim Stanley, principals. Architect Keith McCloskey, civil engineer Fred Cunningham, Dwayne Border, the landscape architect, Diane McKay, who handled community outreach. After many years and many attempts by others, we're finally here at the finish line with a real, viable development project on this property. Where many had come before and failed to solve this Rubik's Cube of challenges presented by this property, even with the City Council's 2018 blessing of the property as one of 6 opportunity sites, and with the benefit of the 2011 specific plan that called for mixed use on this property, it has proven elusive to find the right combination of timing, a developer willing to roll up its sleeves and tackle the multitude of complexities this property presents, one willing to accept the significant development risks inherent in these complexities that will only be fully known once the real engineering is done, all at a time when the capital markets are in a state of flux. Cherry Tree has the bona fides to get this project done and built. The principals have done their homework, and they believe in Thousand Oaks. It took one of Thousand Oaks' own, Mr. Stanley, whose mom has taught here at Lorena for over 30 years, to see this project through to the finish line. And Cherry Tree is making a huge investment in our city, in Thousand Oaks Boulevard, and for our businesses, by bringing a beautiful mixed-use project with 44 much-needed low-income units. with a wide range of amenities for the future residents, as well as a variety of focused retail that will serve the residents and the businesses in the west end of Thousand Oaks Boulevard. Not only will this project help fill the need for housing and contribute significantly towards the city's RHNA requirements, it will contribute towards the ongoing revitalization of the west end of Thousand Oaks Boulevard that has gained momentum with Santal and Tarantula Brewing Company and the other new businesses that have arrived, and will also produce a new resident customer base that will patronize our existing businesses to ensure a robust economic environment exists. And it's within walking distance to jobs, services, and retail, which fits exactly the criteria specific Plan 20 intended to accomplish. As you've heard, 500 Teal Boulevard comes with significant site design and planning challenges. First and foremost, we have two beautiful heritage oak trees along the boulevard frontage. Second, we have unsightly high-tension 66 kV power lines that bisect the middle of the property. And third, we have a flood zone that impacts a large portion of the frontage. The team's marching orders were to preserve the oaks in place and to make them a feature of the project and remove the overhead utility lines. Resolving these site challenges result in the loss of more than 1.2 acres of the 6 acres of land for development. And typically, as you heard, a development is not required to underground the 66 kV power lines. That's not a cost they typically bear, which in this case is, for the property itself, is estimated to be north of $2 million, and that's not including the piece that goes from the northern edge of the property to Hillcrest. That's a cost that's still unknown. That's a piece that the developer will be talking with the city and figuring out how that's going to be handled. However, to deliver the quality necessary for a project of this significance, responding to these challenges were non-negotiable for my client, and they agreed to do it because it's what's best for the project and it's what's best for the city. I want to cover quickly the public benefits. This project is incorporating a multitude of sustainability principles, including it's an all-electric project. Typical boiler systems for water will not use natural gas. One gas line will be available for restaurant cooking facilities. These will be non-smoking residences. We'll have electric vehicle charging stations, rooftop solar, environmental sourced materials. You'll hear from the landscape architect about the type of landscaping that will be used, enhanced air filtration programs. And then we've got 44 low-income affordable units and the undergrounding of the 66 kVs at over $2 million in investment and cost to this project. And this project is providing 17% of the land, or 1.25 acres, which is far in excess of the 3% required by the specific plan. And this is for publicly accessible open space for the linear park, the Lombard Street Park, the retail plaza, and the public walking paths throughout. And there's an additional 1.47 acres committed to private open space for use by the future residents of this community. Other project highlights I want to mention: there's a multitude of amenities: dog park, fitness center, bike room, yoga room, co-working room, rooftop amenities. There's a clubhouse, learning center, bike room, pool, spa. This project's going to be contributing over $8.4 million in development impact fees to the city for parks, schools, roads, sewer, water, police, and fire facilities. And we cannot overstate the fact that this project will have both a catalytic impact on the area while also addressing sustainable principles that will encourage walking instead of driving, thereby reducing vehicle miles traveled. It's encouraging community engagement by providing a gathering place that will foster community support for local business and providing our local businesses a place for their employees to live. As for bikeability and walkability, just a couple of examples. The project is a 12-minute bike ride to the library. It's a 50-minute walk. It's a little long. It's close to transit pickup spots along Teal Boulevard. There was an exhibit that showed that earlier. It's a 3-minute bike ride to the Ventura County Health Care Agency. This project checks all the boxes in terms of what the residents in the business community have asked for, and it's consistent in all respects to what the general plan and the specific plan both set out to accomplish. One more piece of business. We have reviewed the project conditions and find them all to be acceptable. We ask that you follow staff's recommendation of approval. Send this to the council with your unanimous support. We'll be available to answer questions after the full presentation. I'm going to hand this over now to Keith McCloskey, the project architect. He'll talk to you a little bit more about design.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Mr. Minkowski?
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I'd like to just kind of back up a little bit and talk about the vision for the site planning and the architecture. I don't know if we have the applicant presentation available, but if not, I can speak to the site plan on here as well. Really, this project, we went to council pre-screen a few years ago with a vision for what the potential redevelopment of this site could be. And we were excited to bring a mixed-use, mixed-income project that brought both residential, commercial, affordable, and market-rate units. A lot of those benefits and complexities have been talked about so far, but I think what I'd like to do is just talk about the vision for really the site plan approach. And, you know, in doing that, what we tried to do is really create an opportunity for more of an urban Main Street type architecture where we've got internal streets that act as both access for vehicular traffic, bikes, pedestrians, all being kind of coexisting on the same site. We've got main entry drive off of Lombard, which, as you've noticed, you know, it doesn't perfectly align with Hodenkamp, specifically because of the oak tree preservation that we've got going on. So because of that, you know, we don't have the signalization alignment, we don't have the left out, but we've really worked to make the best of that. And as a result of some of the other constraints like the floodplain, we really get a unique opportunity on the boulevard to pull back. So not too different from the lakes. We've got an opportunity for a really nice public park along Teal Boulevard and then units fronting onto that park. And within the project, you know, at Building A specifically, we've got both commercial live-work units, which have a commercial component in the front of them, and then multifamily residential units all in the same building. So those three different types of uses align the park, align towards Teal Boulevard, as you can see in this first perspective, and really create an opportunity to bring a diverse set of materials to the project. There's some brick on the first two levels, metal panels on the third floor, stucco on the fourth floor, and really creating kind of a material transition to break down the scale of these buildings with different materiality, different colors, and changes to the architecture. If you go to the next slide, you get a sense for how that building massing really sits on the street. We've got, thanks Carlos, we've got a 21,000 square foot linear park that was discussed that you can see in the foreground here. The idea that this park being really an opportunity for people to kind of move off of the sidewalk on Teal Boulevard and circulate kind of in through that park access up to the Building A Plaza, which has an elevated ground floor above the floodplain, as well as once you get down towards Building B, we've got an elevated terrace there as well. So all of the ground floor uses are lifted up out of that floodplain and pushed back behind it to enable really those buildings to sit kind of high and proud of that water line. And it really creates kind of a buffer between the sidewalk and creates some opportunities for planters, steps to kind of create that entry into the commercial realm. And then you can see the stories of residential above. In this case, we've got 3 stories before we have a step back at the 4th. You can see the elevation along Teal Boulevard. The majority of that whole frontage of Building B is either commercial, retail, restaurant, or resident lobby, their main resident entry and leasing office for the project. And then some other views. As you get into the project, you get a sense of kind of the sense of community with different buildings coexisting with these private streets that run through as internal driveways. And we see Building C in the distance, Building A on the right in the foreground. And then looking up into the project, you see essentially what's really a 3-story massing with the 4th floor step back. And that extra level doesn't really happen where you've got a 5th floor until you get back above the stepped-up podium garage. So as we look at the internal massing of the buildings, we've got essentially 1 to 2 levels of parking where we've got courtyards above, and then the architecture for the residential continues to step up beyond those. This is the view looking in at that Lombard entrance. You can see the median there that was questioned earlier about that. We can talk a little bit more about that and the questions about the purpose for that and why that was required by Public Works. But that's for ingress and egress onto Lombard. And just beyond the ingress point, you can see our main lobby entry into Building C. That's the kind of secondary lobby for the project, but primary for that building. And then Building B in the distance. And then this street, as we've talked about it with the planning department, really was a collaboration between our two teams to find a way where we could get pedestrians, bikes, and cars all to coexist. So we've got sidewalks, we've got a driveway that's got parallel parking on it, we've got direct access units that all line this, where everyone's living onto these internal drives. And then with respect to that 5-story massing, as you look at it from the freeway, really due to the way that the grading is all established here on the project, Building C on the left, you see about 2.5 stories of that coming up proud of the freeway elevation, and then about 3 stories of Building B on the right-hand side. So these buildings are really stepped and terraced in a way where we've got 5 levels. Much of that is parking that's kind of buried into that hillside. And another view looking out towards Building B here. And then sectionally, you can get an idea for how these buildings and the number of levels that we've got is designed to sit into that hillside. Building B, that section on the top here, is really 2 levels of parking with 3 levels of residential. And then on the right-hand side of that image, you can get a sense of the retaining walls that are there at that east side. That's also where the existing trees along that property line that are kind of leaning over are being removed to enable fire access to happen there on that side. So along the eastern edge of that property, we've got fire access via steps and hose pull on that side, and then we've got the EVA for the trucks and ladder access on the west side of that building. On the bottom slide, you can see where the grade sits in there relative to that EVA. But our team's here to answer a lot of questions. I know it's a complex project. There's probably more questions coming, so we're happy to address any questions that you guys have.
I was going to say, why don't you hang out a second, see if there's questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Lake?
Just the question that I had before, and thank you, Mr. McCloskey, for your presentation. Just the question about the access, and would, like in my mind, being the traffic guide, make more sense to restrict the turn out on the Thousand Oaks Boulevard driveway versus creating an island in the Lombard intersection that would then cause a southbound left-turning vehicle to turn more than 90 degrees to enter the site. So what was the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so the reason for T.O. Boulevard not getting the left turnout really is the alignment that I talked about, not being aligned with Hodenkamp and being shifted further east. So the only opportunity for full access was on Lombard. And at that location, it became a question of sightline, and there was a required sightline distance for that southbound traffic making the left onto Lombard. And so we worked with our civil engineer with Public Works on what that spacing had to be, because originally I think we had it designed as 2 parallel drive lanes that coexisted next to each other that hit Lombard, and they had to be pulled apart to create an opportunity to meet that sightline requirement. But I know that our civil engineers here and Public Works is here as well. They may be better equipped to answer that question.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd probably like to ask, because to me, it just seems to inhibit circulation versus create an issue. And I can understand the stopping site distance requirement, but I'm not seeing why you would need to have a separation between traffic lanes for stopping site distance. If you were to have a car make a left turn out of the driveway, they'd need to see a certain distance to T.O. Boulevard. They need to be able to see it down the street, but I'm not sure how the island actually creates an additional additional distance for stopping site distance. As far as the Thousand Oaks Boulevard approach, what I'm suggesting is maybe an island would be a good implementation for that location, because we all know that people who are faced with a sign that says don't make a left turn, make a left turn anyway. So just from that standpoint, perhaps adding a physical barrier versus just a suggestion to not do something would be more appropriate. But again, that's just suggestion.
Okay. Brett, would you like to speak to it?
Name
Good
and
evening,
city
Fred
residence.
Cunningham with Stantec. We went round and round on the Lombard entry, and as Keith said, originally we had it two parallel, one inbound, one outbound. But it has everything to do with the sight distance of somebody going southbound on Lombard to be able to look to the right and see up the street in order to make a left turn safely. So if we had them parallel, then we couldn't get those sight distances that were required. So we needed to allow that driver to move further south on Lombard in order to make that movement. And that's why we pushed the inbound lane further to the south.
I see. That makes sense. Okay.
Very well.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? I have a brief one. Again, it goes back to the building length. Again, it's a rather, distinctive difference. It's not just a few feet here and there, especially to the extent that that in-between part is really not going to have anything built there. Why does the building need to actually extend 300 and whatever feet?
Sure. Yeah, I can speak to that. I think there's a couple things that drive that. One is the ability to get the affordable units first and foremost. And so as we look at the ability to get the total density, we have to be able to accommodate the 44 affordable units in there too. So if we were to take out a swath of that building and kind of cut it into two, one of the things that would be impacted in addition to the units lost at that cut through the building would also be parking. And we know that parking is sensitive. We know that just meeting the density bonus minimums isn't going to be enough here, and we've worked hard to be able to exceed that number. And cutting that swath to create two separate buildings would create probably a net parking loss of about 45, 50 cars. So those things combined, losing the units, meaning of both affordable and market rate, as well as the 50 units, made us rethink the overall building length with just a cut through on the residential massing, so that we essentially broke it in half so that we had two components under the 250. But the garage level is contiguous so that we can maximize parking inside the building.
And I realize you've lived this for a long time, and I got a staff report on Thursday. So in looking at the pictures and the drawings, it looked like the area that we were talking about, especially for one of the pictures, there's no actual dwellings over this area.
Correct. Yeah, we did that intentionally to give the essentially the feel of two separate buildings. So while the parking is connected underneath and the units do tie together with the bridge, that we created a visual separation to meet the spirit of the development standard, even though we technically don't meet it.
So there's subterranean parking that connects
Correct.
underneath?
Yeah, so we've got the retail and leasing up towards Teo Boulevard, and then immediately behind that, the subterranean parking starts. So in order to physically detach the two buildings, we'd have to basically cut a swath through the parking structure and have, say, a 30-foot building separation, 35-foot building separation in order to technically meet the letter of the development standard.
I mean, you're already cutting through the parking lot anyway, but it sounds like you said you'd have to have more of a separation then. Again, I'm sorry, you've been living this a long time.
The parking is contiguous, but it's just above the concrete podium, above the parking. We created a slot or kind of severed the residential units to create a massing break so that it gives the feel and the effect of two separate buildings.
Okay.
But by the letter of the building code as well as the zoning code, it's a single building.
Understood. Okay. I got any other questions for the applicant? Thank you. I think we're it for the moment. We're going to go on to public comment. I think we have 6 public comments, which means each speaker will have 4 minutes. I believe we have one in person and the others are on Zoom. The one that's here in person, Danielle Borgia. And then I'll go to the ones on Zoom.
Good evening, Chair Lanson and Commissioners. Danielle Borgia, President and CEO for the Greater Conejo Valley Chamber of Commerce and Thousand Oaks resident, here on behalf of over 700 members of our local business community. The site before you this evening we've talked about has long been identified as an opportunity site and the future home of a mixed-use project. Since that time, we have seen mixed use built on this end of the boulevard with the success of Santel, and the vibrancy of Tarantula Brewing has brought to this end of the boulevard. But it's simply not enough. Our board of directors has continuously voiced their support, poised to be one of those projects. The linear park will act as a front yard along Teal Boulevard in addition to the Lombard Street Park. 44 affordable units well exceed the inclusionary housing ordinance requirement passed last year. A host of full suite amenities that build community among residents with rooftop decks, fitness centers, a dog park, and co-working space. We've seen this at Santel and also at 1710 with the communities that build within these projects. The significant community benefits of undergrounding the overhead utility lines for future residents, but also current neighboring residents. As we struggle with both housing affordability and availability for our local workforce, 328 units is a meaningful step in the right direction as we work towards reversing the trend of being the least affordable county in the entire United States. We appreciate your thoughtful consideration and believe the proposal merits the Planning Commission recommend approval to City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now go to Zoom. Jackson Piper, followed by Clint Foltz. Mr. Piper?
Hello again, Planning Commissioners. I want to say that I think this is a very exemplary project. I know it's less affordable housing than some people would like, just given the scale of the project, but reality is that 44 low-income units really, it meets the requirements set by the state for the 50% density bonus. So considering the base density, I think that's great that we have that. The 44 units included in this project, and then the 53 additional units because of our own Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan allowing unlimited density over non-residential units. That's just, to me, icing on the cake. And yeah, those will be market rate units, but those will help increase the financial stability of the project and provide housing for, there are still a lot of people that fall above the lower income categories that we want affordable housing for, that still need housing to be built for them in cities like Thousand Oaks or throughout Ventura County. That will help alleviate in other ways the affordable housing problem that we have throughout the region. So I think this is overall a very good project. It's very thoughtfully designed. I'm very happy with a lot of the environmental aspects of the project, especially the open space that's been included, the publicly accessible parks and open space within the project, and the courtyards meant for the residents. I really think that the tone this sets for other projects forthcoming on the boulevard is a very good one that we should want other projects to follow. And yeah, going back to those 44 low-income units, this project itself is not going to solve the affordable housing issue in Thousand Oaks, but if we get additional projects going up and down the boulevard that choose to pursue density bonus, that choose to add, the 24% low-income units or the 15% very low-income units that trigger the state density bonus, that's a plus. That means we'll gradually add more housing stock that's accessible to the lower income levels. So we should really move forward with projects like these and encourage projects like these throughout our city where there's space for them on the boulevard, in other commercial areas. We really need to take advantage of that limited developable area left that hasn't been, that's available for infill, that hasn't been locked away in single-family neighborhoods, which are honestly really unlikely to change drastically. This is where the opportunity is, and I think this project really makes good use of that opportunity to deliver something that's really a benefit for the city, it'll make a nice addition to the boulevard, and it will provide those low-income units. So that's where I'll leave it. But thank you very much, and please follow staff's recommendation, move this project forward.
Thank you, Mr. Piper. I would remind everybody on Zoom, please give your name and city of residence. Next, we have Clint Foltz, followed by Douglas Baker.
Hello, my name is Clint Foltz. I'm a Thousand Oaks resident and a member of the Conejo Climate Coalition, as well as Ventura County Yes in My Backyard. The Conejo Climate Coalition supports this development and would like to see it come to fruition. We are very pleased to see that this project checks so many of the boxes that our organization advocates for on a regular basis. The residential portion is all electric, will provide electric vehicle charging stations with additional conduit and wiring provided for future applicants, rooftop photovoltaics, native and drought tolerant landscaping, a water conservation program, and the list goes on. The location is perfect for providing access to public transportation, bikeability, walkability, and the open space that will be preserved is just icing on the cake. We're also pleased to hear that 24% of the units will be affordable. We absolutely need to address the housing crisis at the same time we're addressing the climate crisis. The Conejo Climate Coalition supports this project and asks that you support it as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Douglas Baker, followed by Sean Maradian.
Hello, my name is Douglas Baker. I'm a resident of Newberry Park. I'm also calling in support of item 7A. I believe that this project is a good example of the type of infill development that Thousand Oaks needs in order to address the ongoing housing crisis. This project would repurpose what is currently underutilized land within the city, and the project would provide a desirable mixed-use area of commercial businesses, open spaces, and housing, providing a total of 328 total housing units and 44 low-income units. It is very welcome on my end to see this kind of development move through. As we all know, that Thousand Oaks currently has been getting more and more unaffordable each year, and I'm excited to see more of this type of missing middle housing start to arrive within the city. Unfortunately, Thousand Oaks was just recently added to the list of cities that have a median house price of over $1 million. So I encourage the commission to continue to facilitate more of these types of developments and continue to encourage infill development across the city in order to provide more of this type of missing middle housing. Speaking as a homeowner in Newberry Park and also as a member of Ventura County Yes in My Backyard, I urge the commission to approve this project along with all of the requested concessions, waivers, and modifications that the developer has requested. As a reminder, TO's RHNA, regional housing needs allocation right now is a total of 2,621 units, and we are already 3 years into the current 2021 to 2029 cycle. This project, given 44 low-income units, would provide about 9% of the low-income housing target of 494 units for Thousand Oaks. So once again, please approve the resolution before you. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sean Maradian, followed by Jonathan Duran.
Sean is no longer logged on.
Okay. Jonathan Duran, are you there?
Yes, Commissioner, can everyone hear me?
Yes, go ahead. You have 4 minutes.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Good evening, commissioners, council member, or staff. My name is Jonathan Duran. I'm a member of the Western States Regional Council Carpenters, and I live and reside within Thousand Oaks or Newberry Park. I do believe this project will impact me. And one thing I've heard so far is like, yes, the RHNA goals, we do need to have those. We need to have affordable units here in the city. But with that, we also need to have a livable wage. A lot of times when contractors come into the area, they don't pay that. And with this project, that is one thing that my big concern is. I think that the city should require projects like this, anything with the podium deck, housing, and especially with the density bonus, it should require some type of local hire, maybe prevailing wage, and utilizing apprenticeship programs, state certified apprenticeship programs to be able to build these projects. And like I said, Amal, the environment is changing for housing. We know that single-family homes are slowly going away, and we are starting to see more of these infill projects come into the program throughout the cities of Ventura. And with this project is just one. But one of the things that will happen if you require local residents and local contractors to be able to work on this project, it will reduce the construction-related environmental impacts for traveling from the project. So again, I urge you not to move this project forward. And like I said, I wish the developer and the projects that will be coming down the pipeline will have some other language in it to be able to have skilled and trained workforce and be able to utilize apprenticeship programs within these developments. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And I think we have one more on Zoom.
Sean Meridian is back on.
Mr. Muradian?
Good evening, commissioners. Sean Muradian, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Chair Lanson. Lifelong resident of Thousand Oaks. I'm here on behalf of the Thousand Oaks Boulevard Association, speaking as its president in full support of this application before you. We submitted a letter earlier today echoing a lot of the points which warrant recommendation of approval. However, just wanted to point out, some of the significances and historical involvement that TOBA's had with this site. Many on the commission were not there at the inception of the specific plan. This project was contemplated for development before the opportunity site designation, before 1710, before 299, before IMT, before Hillcrest, before Kennedy Wilson. We have been trying for 13 years to try to get a perfect balance between what the city wants, the residents want, what the businesses need, and in conjunction with the challenges that this site possesses. This is probably the 6th developer that we've worked with, the dozenth iteration of this plan that we've seen. I could tell you from personal experience, this is not an easy site to design, and really what you're seeing before you is a culmination of over a decade's worth of work, compromise, and proof of concept. When this project first was presented, we didn't have the benefit of 1710 or 299 to see how these projects were going to fit into the boulevard, accepted by our community, whether they would be patronized. We came to see that not only 1710 and 299 were immensely successful, nearly 100% pre-leased. The demand for this project is real. I hear it day in and day out from our businesses, and I know that if developed, it would greatly improve a lot of the things that the businesses on Thousand Oaks Boulevard and the community at large are looking for. So with that, I apologize. I couldn't be there in person this evening. I want to wish all of the Jewish members of the Planning Commission and City Staff a Chag Sameach. I'm with the family tonight, but this was this important that I had to step aside and make sure that you know that we support it, and we hope that you make a recommendation of approval. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that's our last public speaker. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I'll go back to the staff for comments. Mr. Contreras?
Staff has no comments to the responses at this time.
Okay. Usually we'd go back to the applicant now for rebuttal, if you'd like 5 additional minutes of time to rebut anything. Oh.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioners, Tom Cohen here on behalf of the applicant, Cherry Tree. Just 2 things. There was a question or a comment about why low-income units were chosen. At the pre-screen hearing, that was what was presented by the property owner at that time that to the city council. So this Cherry Tree, as the applicant, carried that forward with this application, that they would be providing 44 low-income units. So that's just a carry forward. Second, there's this discussion about the building height. And I think Keith did a good job explaining what's going on here and the effort that was made to minimize how height is shown and how it will look from different vantage points, particularly from the freeway, which I think is where primarily the fourth and fifth stories would be most visible. But from the freeway, you'll be seeing mostly 2.5 to 3 stories. An interesting anecdote is that this property in 1975, the city council had placed a height overlay which allowed buildings to be up to 75 feet high on this property. That height overlay stayed with the property until the late 1990s, when an application came forward from the current property owner, the prior property owner, the seller of this property, Mr. Nazarbikian, Henry's father, to do a commercial retail development here. And because he was not proposing anything close to 75 feet, the decision was made to remove the height overlay on the property. It was on I think it was in 1996. So I thought that was important for you to understand that there was a belief way back in the 1970s that this site was a site where height was warranted. Obviously, you needed to prove how it would work. And you've seen tonight in the exhibits that have been shown that these will not be 5 stories looming over the boulevard or looming over the freeway. You will have to be internal to the site to really see the 5th story, or you'll have to be on the freeway, but you really won't see 5 stories stacked on top of one another. So really, those were the main points that I wanted to come back to. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight, and available for questions.
Commissioners, any questions of the applicant? All right, thank you. And I know I skipped going back to questions for the commissioners to the staff, if there was any further questions. Commissioner Ferris?
I just wanted to, there were a few notes from the public speakers that I wanted to just get clarification on, just to make sure for our own purposes and the public's. One of the applicants had talked about like the 53 units were on top of the commercial square footage. I don't think that's technically correct, and I just want to make sure that we have an understanding of it. My understanding is that those are units for which there is non-residential space on the ground floor, and that's the units on top of that would count as the 53 units. Makes a difference because if you look at the plans, there's a lot of commercial parking spaces that are the ground floor, and units are on top of those, and those comprise the 53.
Yeah, the specific Plan 20 standards and guidelines indicate any non-residential space, as you mentioned, you can provide those unlimited units, right? In this particular case, they proposed them above the non-residential commercial component of the project, including space on Building B and also on Building A. They're not above the live-work units, which are considered to be more of a residential component.
All right, I just want to make sure that sometimes those get thrown around as interpreted the same thing. It's more specific to the non-residential spaces, including the parking spaces that are included for that. So the other comment that was brought up was that in support of the project, that 24% of the units would be affordable. That is in fact not correct either. That is 24% of the 183 unit baseline that is used to justify the density bonus. Really, it's about 13.4% of the units would be deemed affordable. Is that correct?
Yes,
44 units as compared to 328.
Yes, Commissioner Ferris, that is correct. The 24% is derived from the 183 base units, which gives you that 44 unit count.
Okay, it's just like, I just want to make sure we're hopefully, understanding that using the right numbers and what they actually represent, but other than that, I'd have no other comments. Just want to straighten those facts out for the record.
Okay, I do have a question, by the way, applicant. I will let you have another rebuttal in the event you wanted to respond to anything we're asking, because you guys should end up going last. I always ask the first question of why are we here? The concessions, waivers, and modifications Again, it came out that by virtue, and again, we're still getting used to this process. I think after the general plan update and all the stuff the state put us through, we're having a hard time adjusting to what is in our purview and what technically isn't. Again, just to confirm here, the sessions and the concessions and waivers are kind of automatic. That's what I'm being led to believe is part of what their application is under the density bonus laws.
I would say incentives or concessions are automatic. Waivers, certainly you have an argument to say they're not required to, that they wouldn't physically preclude, but that's another discussion for another time. But in this case, what we're saying is under the development agreement, which is a key component to this particular project, we are recommending that you recommend to council that the development agreement, which states they have the 3 incentives, the 4 waivers, and the 3 modifications.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for the staff, commissioners? All right, so again, applicant, did you want any further time to rebut? Okay, I'm hearing a no, so we'll close that at this point. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and invite comment or a motion. Commissioner Kettelhut.
And first, I need to put on the record that I spoke with Andy Fox today to get some historic perspective, and Andy is a consultant to the applicant. So putting that out there. So some considerations. First, thank you for a beautiful project. I mean, truly a beautiful project. And again, kind of encapsulating what I heard from the speaker, from the applicant, from the city, as well as the speakers we had, the fact that our boulevard plan was adopted in 2011, and here we are today. So, I mean, that's really something to consider with this. And as Mr. Muradia noted, this site has been reconstituted for 13 years, and that's in the times we're living in now, we really need to take that into consideration with 6 other applicants. That's a lot. That predated, I think, all of us. The fact that it's the largest opportunity site on Teal Boulevard, voted in 2017, 2021, and 2022 by the council with a pre-screen, I think is really impactful to me. The fact that you've got the best and highest use, where you've got the market rate as well as the affordable units, and we're meeting those RENA goals. I asked about the undergrounding of the power lines, and I appreciate the fact that it would not just be for this site, but for the contiguous neighborhood, which I think is spectacular. The innovative design to contend with the floodplain, and the fact that the setback from the street, I realize that you guys have asked for that as a concession, or a waiver, or whatever it was, but in any event, the fact that to deal with that, you've given a linear park that, and stepping back and articulating the massing of the buildings, opening up the vistas a bit, because I know people say, gosh, we don't want to be Culver City. We don't want to have, as they've said, this I'm doing there, looming over, this is Italian, this is what Italians do. The fact that the applicant could avail themselves of the SB 20 off-site street parking, but in fact, you chose to accommodate it with 448 spaces, so it does not seep out into the neighboring community. I think that's really important. And then additionally, really important are all those environmentally friendly elements that you've put into this project. And so I really am very impressed with what has been done here.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Ferris?
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting for a motion, though.
I can't make one.
Commissioner, I'll read the thing. I move that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution based on the findings and subject to the conditions contained therein, recommending that the City Council find that addendum to EIR number 327, CEQA 2023-70004, dated April 24th, was prepared in accordance with the requirements of CEQA, and the addendum analyzes the proposed project as required under the CEQA guidelines sections 15162 and 15164. Under CEQA guidelines section 15164, and based on the addendum prepared for the project, it is found that the proposed project will not result in new significant impacts, nor substantially increase the severity of previously disclosed impacts beyond those already identified in EIR number 327. Approved special use permit SUP 2023-70011 and protected tree permit PTP 2023-70067 based on the findings and subject to the recommended conditions of approval included in the resolution, and adopt an ordinance approving developer agreement DAGR 2023-70001.
Did you want to make any comments about the motion itself?
I'm out of breath.
Commissioner Ferris.
One just question, I'm assuming that that includes the additions that staff had provided on the revised conditions?
That was already part of, yes, I would assume that's.
Yeah, with that understanding, absolutely.
Okay. If I may make some comments on it. So I'll get to the punchline of where I'm at on it. I won't support the motion, but I'm not going to stand in its way either. I'm going to abstain and provide it if the other commissioners allow and support it to go for a unanimous approval. My main rationale for it is I actually think that we're not using the right baseline to ask for the right public benefit for the affordable units to calculate the concessions and densities we have. If we use the 235 or roughly that number, which means we're including the 53, the project itself with 44 low-income units would constitute, would be eligible for a roughly 33.5%, not 50%. So that would mean they'd have to lop off, let's say 13 units or something to get to that. Or the other way is if they really want to go for 50%, they can have more affordable units, which means instead of 44, it's 57. The project would be bigger, but this is already a huge project. And I think a lot of the speakers tonight that have voiced support for this project rightly recognize the difficulty of this particular site and the efforts prior to this to make it something that actually would not be a vacant parcel. I used to live up in Galsworthy, and you'd kind of go down Thousand Oaks Boulevard, and you'd see this big open spot. There used to be a potential for movie theaters. Was that an option I remember that was floating around at one point? So this was already going to be a large project, and I was on the planning commission when it was recommended for approval for the specific plan. So I was there in 2011, and the aspect of the unlimited units was a modification that came later in 2016, in which, to be honest, actually, when the general plan had its commercial residential designation, there was no actual limit of density on it. It was, the only requirement was that you actually had to have a specific plan. And so that was one of the items there. That specific plan was changed to say if it's just residential, it's 30 units, but if it has commercial vertical components, you can have more units. You can exceed the 30 unit baseline. But it was always with an understanding at that point that the other regulations in the specific plan would actually moderate that. You'd have 3 stories, you'd have 50-foot heights, those sorts of things. They never contemplated the state density bonus laws and the concessions that would lift all of these things to enable much larger projects. This is a project, regardless of whether you go with a revised calculation or the current one, is 50 to 60 units per acre on this property. Like, that is the real density on the property. So again, all these things are sort of, nobody contemplated these things, and I think that that's one of the things that I would personally urge the council through my neither support nor rejection of the recommendation, that the council look to see if they can get more affordable units on it, and if the applicant wanted to go with a higher density to get to the 57, that they add some more studios in here, because I'm looking at this is less than 4% of the units are actually studio apartments. When we talk affordable, we talk about the term of art, of which does it qualify for the very low or low income. But I think when you ask people about whether things are affordable, they're thinking in a colloquial sense. Is it a place that is affordable to me to be able to live in the community? And I think having more of these sort of studios or smaller apartments can actually help with that. So for that reason, I don't want to stand in the way of a unanimous recommendation, but for those reasons, I would urge that they would look to get more of the public benefit of affordable units into this project.
Can you make a abstain conditioned on hearing what the other votes are? Is that what you're doing?
I'm saying, assuming that the commission wants to do that, I don't want to stand in the commission's way if it wants to make a recommendation to the council.
Makes sense. Other commissioners? Commissioner McMahon?
Of all the projects that have come before us, this has been the most difficult one for me. I'm a big proponent of affordable housing, of housing all along our corridor. That's really important to me. And then at first glance, we've got 3 concessions, 4 waivers, 3 modifications, and 22 trees. That's a lot. But then you look at 328 units, you look at 44 affordable units, you look at the problems and the complexity of the parcel, and you look at the undergrounding benefits to the city. I'm going to support this motion, but it's been a really difficult road for me, I just have to say. And that's all.
Commissioner Kettelhut? I have to agree with Commissioner McMahon. This has been one of the most difficult evaluations I've had since I've been on the Planning Commission. It's a great project. It's beautiful. And by the way, you know, I know a decade at least went into this process by a ton of people. And again, I can tell because, you know, I thought when we did the general plan and did all the stuff that ultimately that was going to minimize a lot of our involvement. It seems like this has gotten now broader, but I realize that's because this is a complicated property. This is not an easy property to deal with. There's lots of inherent issues that took a long time and lots of people to kind of get through and get to a beautiful looking project. I can't fault any of the design, the architecture. Again, as Commissioner McMahon said, there are a number of waivers and exceptions that, again, start adding up in my head as to not wanting to set policy. But a lot of those, again, come along with the density, but that's why I said, why are we here? They go along with the density bonus process. They go along with all the other reasons and justifications for it, especially like why Building A is set back. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It has to be. So there's a lot of things that kind of just flow naturally. Again, the problem being is that collectively it seems like a lot of hurdles to get through. But again, it looks like this project has gone through those. I'm not thrilled about the building length. Again, it just looks strange in terms of the number. I know there's reasons for it. Hopefully that can be kind of looked at as part of the city council process. But at the end of the day, again, I really am thankful for you guys putting all the effort in. I'm thankful for the staff of sticking with this for a very long time and trying to make this the best it possibly can be. It is a great benefit for the city. 44 affordable units is great. Getting our last opportunity zone kind of taken care of is also a fantastic issue. We've been looking at that. So for those reasons, I'm going to support it as well. But again, it was a very, very hard process, and I read everything 3 times, which made it a really fun day for me. So with that, Secretary, please prepare us for a vote.
Commissioner Ferris?
I'm abstaining from this one.
Commissioner Tyler Kettelhut?
Yes.
Commissioner Link?
Yes.
Commissioner McMahon?
Yes.
Chair Lanson?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Commissioner Ferris abstaining.
And as there is no appeal period because the recommendation from the Planning Commission goes to the City Council. And with that, we will go on to item 9, Commissioner comments and AB 1234 reports. Are there any comments or 1234 reports? Seeing no hands, I will move on to number 10, which is the staff update. Ms. Melliker is already ready to push her button. Ms. Melliker, are there any follow-ups, announcements, or upcoming issues?
Yes, on April 26th, the City Council will have a goal-setting session and second reading of the municipal code amendments for the daycare and emergency shelters that they approved on April 9th. On May 7th, City Council will have a public hearing on the Community Development Block Grant Action Plan, as well as a proclamation for Building and Safety Month and a consent agenda, a consent calendar item for the housing element finding. On May 21st, Council will have a public hearing on the project that you just recommended approval to City Council. And moving to 11B for upcoming Planning Commission schedule, on May 6th, there will be a public hearing for a shared parking agreement. And this is for the conversion of an existing retail space to a gym at 3825 East Thousand Oaks Boulevard. And there are no items scheduled to date for May 20th. Thank you.
I guess that's it. And I just found out my daughter-in-law went into labor, so I'm going to be leaving now to go to the hospital. So thank you all. This will adjourn the meeting tonight, and we'll see you on May 6, 2024.